Hey, brother.
Hey, Al.
And welcome everyone back to another episode of Siblings in Crime. I'm Allie Rosso.
And I'm Blake Murphy.
And just as it sounds, we are siblings who love true crime.
Yes, love it.
Love it. You do this every time. I was like waiting for you to give me the little pinchers.
Yes.
Love it. Well, we are back. We have a little bit of a different case this week.
Back in black.
Yeah, and it's just as wild as normal, but maybe, I don't know. It was perfect timing to do this case. I've been looking at it for a while, and today's the day. But before we get into it, if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, follow, comment. What else we got?
Just more.
The more the merrier.
Yeah.
We'll take all of the subscribers. It has been a good week for subscribers. So thank you everyone who's new here. We are
Let me verify.
Have you?
I don't trust you.
What do you mean? I mean, it was like 2 weeks ago that we're one away from 300. So
No,
everyone, it was like 3 weeks ago, 3 episodes ago. So fills my soul that everyone is here. My heart is growing in size. Okay, well, do you have anything before I get into this week's case?
I don't. I'm just kidding. I do.
I was about to say, that's like the first time you've ever said no.
No, I don't really. I can't think of anything right at the moment, honestly. Everything's good. Yeah.
Rough week for soccer. But besides that,
true.
We have been very loyal FIFA World Cup watchers, and not our best week, but still excited for some more games.
Yeah, hopefully yeah, that was
Next
rough.
World Cup's our year.
Yes. It was just sad because like a couple of those goals, like the last goal shouldn't have happened, obviously, and the second to last goal shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So
we looked kind of tired out there, and we're big Brazil fans, and so that was a heartbreaker, and that was another sleepy game. That was a hard watch.
Yeah, I had to fly, so it was sucky to be flying and not know, and then just land, and everyone's like, "Sorry, Blake," and I'm like, "Great, we lost," and I don't even know why.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like that you didn't want to watch that game. The whole time was like so frustrating. So
at least Neymar scored a goal.
True, good for him. And like the very end, yeah. Still sad. Anyways, well, let's get in this week's case because no one likes to hear us yep all the time unless you have something important. Which I doubt it.
Everything I say is important, but carry on.
Okay, well, we're going to carry on. I have a very small intro, and we're going to get right into it.
Really fast, did you hear about the 737 that disappeared off the coast of Pakistan?
No.
It crashed, and they just found some remains of the plane. It's a cargo plane.
How long ago was this?
Like a day or two.
It crashed a day or two, or they found remains a day or two ago?
Crashed a day or two ago, and they found remains today, I think.
Wow, yeah, no, I didn't hear about that. That's so sad.
Yeah. Anyways, keep going.
Well, on that happy note, we're going to go into more happy things. Okay, well, today's story is going to be about a guy named Andres. Kind of just like a regular personality type of guy. He was really good at what he did. He was very well liked. He was about to get married at this time. And then one day at work, he made a mistake. Not even that big of a mistake, depends on who you ask in the grand scheme of things, but it ended up costing him his life. And that's the story we're going to tell today. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's roll. Yeah, so sad. And it's one of those cases where I'm not going to pronounce a lot of things right just because I can't speak Spanish. So we're just going to blow over that. Even the most popular names, because Andres grew up in Medellin. What is that? The most popular place in Colombia? Medellin?
Yeah. Colombia?
Yeah. In
Colombia. Is this case kind of like a Mr. Ballin case?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's way stranger than fiction type or whatever.
I love those episodes, actually. I wouldn't say it's stranger than fiction. However, I try to keep it Mr. Ballin style where I'm going to be a little discreet on some of the details until we reveal it a little bit later.
Ooh, I like it when he does that. And then he's like, and that girl was this person.
That's true.
That is. Oh.
You're like, what the? I know. Yeah. I feel like I can't really do that type of case all the time because I have you asking me questions the entire time. And I'm like, stop talking to me if I am trying to be discreet. So it's
Want me to be honest real fast?
Please.
My
I'm
least
scared.
favorite part of the episode is hearing about the court stuff. Like,
Yeah. Well,
if we just like told me what happened, great. Unless it's really important, like I'm like zoned out when we talk about court stuff.
you look zoned out too when we talk about court stuff. Some people
Yeah.
find that fascinating. I'm not one on that too. I'm like, give me the sentence and that's about all I need.
Yeah, unless something crazy
it's
happens, like he
yeah,
intimidated the witness and the witness showed up, flipped sides, or like the witness was
like
murdered
more
or
is
something.
happening during it.
Yeah.
I agree. Especially like, I mean, I feel like the time the court part is important to the case is if it ever gets like reversed or like it's a false confession and all that kind of stuff or whatever. But we're not going to be going hard into the case or the court if that helps you for today's episode. Okay, you love that. Well, let me get into Andreas's growing up because he was in like a upper middle class type of neighborhood. Obviously, if you know anything about Colombia in this part of the region, it seems very dangerous. And it seems like his neighborhood was more like their little sanctuary, maybe like a little bit of stability amongst all the things going on around the rest of the world. Like his father, Dario, he actually worked as a banker, and he was that kind of guy who he was trying to keep kids off the street. And so that just shows you the type of home Andres grew up in. It was very religious. It was very hardworking. And like his father actually started an organization to like keep kids occupied and like busy with their summers in order to not get involved in like street behavior.
Yeah. The weird thing about the like cartel and everything in Medellin, it sounds like Pablo Escobar and all those guys were like heroes because they would give money to poor, like fun things and
actually don't know much about the cartel.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like weird where it's like they were like kind of like Robin Hood a little bit, where it's like
local heroes.
Yeah, like I mean, they're not stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. They're making drugs and selling drugs and killing people, but then they give to the poor and like pay off governments and stuff. So it was weird, but yeah, just thinking about that when you said keeping them off the street, but it was like kind of probably hard to not get them involved because they're like, well, Pablo built this soccer field for us or something like
That's
that.
True. Yeah, wait, I didn't know that he was like that involved in like community stuff in the terms of like buying things like that, for example. I feel like I've definitely heard of paying off like the government, different things, and I'm sure with you have that much money you're able to do a lot of stuff. But as we know, Pablo is not the best example. So for Andreas, it's nice that he's able to be in an environment where he's not really getting into the drugs the way that maybe some of like his school friends are in the same way.
Like this, like just to verify, is like Pablo Escobar used his massive drug money to help the poor in Medellin, earning a Robin Hood image while building a violent criminal empire. He funded public projects like housing developments, schools, and hospitals.
Dang, that's actually kind of crazy.
I know. So it's kind of like it's like so a two-edged sword for like someone trying to. You're like, oh, well, it's good stuff, but bad stuff.
Yeah. That is weird. And I can see people, like, especially youth growing up then, knowing Pablo, like what he's doing, like not seeing it as a big deal to get involved with a lot of bad stuff in the end. Well, that was Andreas, but that is very fascinating. I actually didn't know that. I don't know anything, so
I love that stuff.
Really? Yeah, it is interesting. I'm like pretty not very knowledgeable about
someone quoted me. I'm pretty sure it was what I said, where I was like, I love
death.
What did I say?
Or whatever. Yeah. I know. I saw that comment.
I love hearing about death. I was like, geez, that sounds scary.
I know. I was like, yeah, be careful what you say. People will be like, this guy's actually a psychopath.
Yeah, I've always loved talking about death. I was like, it's just a joke, guys. Come on.
You're like, come on. That's funny. Well, carrying on to Andrea's family, because his mom, Beatrice, she was like the center of this household. She was like the light of their life in that place. Seems like he was like so close with his mom, and she was the one that was like motivating them to go to church every week. They went to mass like every day. It sounds like hardcore devout Catholics, and it kind of stayed with that throughout their lives. But so sad, when Andreas was just 18, his mother got sick with leukemia, which is literally the worst disease ever. and she died at just the age of 52, which I hate hearing those stories. And a lot of times you hear that, and this is like when typically the main character starts going south, right? Like getting into major depression. Maybe this is time to go into the drugs. But Andreas wasn't really like that. Of course, it hit him hard. This was like his best friend, but he didn't really fall into that trap of like quitting all his passions and a deep depression. He kind of used it as fuel. And despite the pain, he was able to like use the tragedies around him to like become his best self, which
That's
is
good.
so impressive because, yeah, that just shows so much about him, because that's got to be the hardest thing. And anyone who's dealt with grief, it's like you have two options. Either you're going to fall into the pits or you got to pick yourself up and use it as fuel. And Andreas was the latter. So, and he had like a brother. From what I can see, I think it's just two of them. They're pretty close in age. They grew up doing all the same stuff, best friends. Not much going into his brother Santiago. But that's the family that we're dealing with. And so by the time Andreas was in his 20s, people who worked with him described him almost the same across the board. Everyone you asked said he was super calm. He was even-tempered. Not the type to lose his cool in any situation, like even if things went really badly. So to me, he sounded like a humble type of guy. And that's probably what won over his fiance, Pamela. He was with a dentist, Pamela, for about 5 years, and they're actually planning their wedding this same year in 1994 that this case takes place. So we're in 1994, if you catch
So
that.
he was gonna become a dentist, or what do you mean?
Pamela was a dentist.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. I know, such a beast.
Yeah,
So
Universidad.
So hopefully I have a chart. I'm going to try to put the forensic chart up no matter what if I say a year, just so we know what's going on. This isn't like last week's case where we're just like pulling out evidence in every direction, but it's still nice to know what's going on in 1994. However, is it the same in Colombia? Don't know. You're being born? Oh yeah, you were born in 94, huh? You're actively being born. September
I was
of 94.
being made. I was probably a watermelon size right now.
Hilarious.
I'm just kidding. That's probably big, actually. It's the size of a grapefruit.
Yeah. I crack up because I have the little app that tells you what size your baby is every week. And it's so inaccurate. It'll be like a spaghetti squash. And then the next week's like a head of broccoli. I'm like, that's like so much smaller than a spaghetti squash to me. But whatever. Doesn't matter. All I'm saying is that this taking place in 1994. He had a fiance. He had a great family.
Yeah, it is accurate in the fact that you'll be like, oh, I'm like craving bagels. And then the next day be like, you should be craving bagels right now.
Hey, you will not get over the bagels phase.
That's just something I thought about, but it's just funny.
Okay, did I tell you the other day, I literally woke up.
You're recraving?
I wasn't craving. I told Brett, I was like, literally right when I woke up, I thought of this. I was like, we should schedule like a hospital labor and delivery tour because I've like seen those things so you know what's going on. I say that, roll over, grab my phone, check my little tip of the day. It says, now's a good time to schedule a hospital labor. I was like, shut up. That is so creepy. And I swear it's not like listening because it's already generated each day. But I was shocked. So What to Expect app is literally so on point. It's bizarre. All that besides the point. Andreas, very liked, very respected. What a beast. But as you probably heard in the intro, he's not without mistakes. And so Andreas went to work on a Wednesday like he typically did, right?
What does he do?
We're going to go into it soon. So he was really good at his job. He had been good at it for years, good enough that people kind of looked at him like as a role model or example, like go to him for advice. He's a sensei. Yes, great guess. So random.
No, man, like he's like a leader or like the master.
Yeah. I guess you could say he was the sensei.
Some would say mentor.
Some would say. I would say.
To mentees.
To mentees.
I'm just kidding.
I don't know why that's the most adorable name, mentees. Anyways. Well, by that Wednesday, he made a mistake. He misjudged a moment, kind of made a split-second decision, didn't land right. It kind of was that situation where this could happen to anybody. Everyone makes mistakes. Typically not a big deal and doesn't really affect a lot of people. But at first, people were kind of frustrated about this mistake he'd made. Except people started taking this very personally. Word got out and people started getting really pissed and everyone had an opinion on what Andres could have done differently. And that frustration grew even uglier. Because at this point, once like people started to know what happened, people were literally sending in death threats to Andres. Like this became a very big deal, saying that he was like trying to sabotage them and just took it on like such a personal thing. Well, his coworkers at this time, they were starting to kind of hear the same things that Andrea was getting, the same type of threats, and they were getting freaked out. And a lot of them were like, we're not even going to go home because we're so scared to go to our houses because of these death threats, which just shows how serious this ended up being. And Andreas, he didn't show fear in the same way. He wanted to go home. He wanted to prove that he had nothing to hide, that this was just an honest mistake. And so that's exactly what he did, and he went home. Well, just 5 days after this mistake, you can say, Andreas went out with some friends. They went to the bar, then the liquor store, then they went to the nightclub. Like they had a whole night going on. Seemed like a normal night. He was hanging out with people. Everyone's talking. Some people brought up what he did at work. Some people didn't. It was probably more annoying for Andreas than anything else. Like, okay, great, thanks, drop it. But around 3 a.m, his friends had all gone home. Everyone kind of went their own ways. And now at this point, Andreas was alone in a parking lot, getting into his car, ready to go home for the night. And that's when 3 men walked up. There was an argument. Things are getting hot and heated and pissy. And that's when a handgun gets pulled. And Andreas was shot right then and there multiple times for this one mistake he made at work. And according to almost everyone who was there that night, witnesses said that the shooter was yelling one word over and over and over every time he took a shot. And that was goal, 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 goal. 3 to 12 shots, depending on the source. Andreas was rushed to the hospital. He didn't make it. 45 minutes later, he passed away at just the age of 27 years old. If you haven't caught on, I imagine you have. Because here's the thing about Andreas. Andreas was Andres Escobar, not related to Pablo. That's what I first thought. He was a center back for the Colombian national soccer team, nicknamed by fans and press alike as the gentleman of football, for how calm and clean he played the game. And the mistake that ended his life happened at the 1994 World Cup in the United States in front of the whole world. Now you're probably familiar with this story, at least you personally. You familiar?
A little bit, but I can imagine what's happening.
Yeah, so sickening. So to understand what happened, let me set the whole scene now that we know what's going on. Because if we go back to that Wednesday and rebuild it, Colombia went to the 1994 World Cup as one of the most talked about teams. Like they were like, okay, these guys are going to finals. These guys are the best of the best. This was like their prime years. Because even just the year prior, they had gone to Buenos Aires and beaten Argentina 5-0. And that was like so shocking at the time. Still shocking to this day. So they obviously, Colombia had super high expectations for their country. It started going wrong almost immediately, though, because their first match was against Romania on June 18th at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. It was almost in front of about 92,000 people. Can you believe it? I had no idea that the Rose Stadium carried that many people. That's a buttload.
I knew that.
Of course you knew that. You know everything. Well, in this game, Colombia lost 3-1. And it was like super like that was the biggest upset. They were so shocked. And at this time back home, people were already starting to get really mad because this is like the very first game of the World Cup. So things were only getting worse. Before the next match against the literally host nation, the United States, go US, death threats started coming in already. This is where it gets really weird. It depends on source on how this actually happened. But evidently someone, quote unquote, hacked the television. First of all, different era. So hacked is used very loosely. There was a message left in the hotel room for the Colombian soccer team. And it left terrifying messages. One message told the defender, Luis, okay, I don't know how to say this, Luis, I'm not even going to try, Herrera, that's my guess. Who knows?
Sounds good.
This is why I never learned Spanish, is my tongue does not form that way. but told this defender that his brother had been killed in a car crash back at home, which wasn't true, just trying to mess with him and freak him out. And then another message threatened to kill the entire squad if the coach played a specific midfielder, Gabriel Gomez. I'm like, what do you even do in that situation? You're getting little threats from who knows who.
Mhm.
And they're like, hey, we're going to kill every single one of you if you play this guy.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Play him.
Really?
See what happens.
You don't give a crap.
If he's good.
You're like, safety, whatever.
I mean, like, look, if this guy's the best player to play and we win, they're not killing anyone. They're just happy we won. If we lose
True.
and I play the guy, we're all dead for sure.
Yeah, is it worth it though?
So, and I think if we lose no matter what, I'm dead for sure. So,
which is so creepy that you got to take these threats pretty seriously, especially for coming out of Colombia. You're like, yeah, these guys don't care. Like, they're all in. Like, I don't know what you do in that situation. But for the head coach, Francisco, he actually was reported kind of showing up to this team meeting in tears, like emotional about this. And he actually pulled Gomez from the lineup. Like, he didn't start. I don't even know if he played at all. I should have fact checked that. But players were like sleeping in their hotel rooms, getting ready for the game, knowing that supposedly their fan base, who's supposed to be cheering them on, wanted them dead over a soccer match. That freaks me out. I was trying to figure out how you would have hacked into the television thing. It seems like the best guess online is like, you know how like when you go into a
like
hotel room?
TV?
Yeah. When you go into a hotel, it says like, welcome, Mr. Murphy, or whatever. They think maybe you can just customize that. So maybe someone was like physically in the lobby or had access to somebody to put this in their room. That's like the best guess. But regardless, I'd be so sad if I was Gabriel Gomez and I'm like getting pulled because you're getting death threats. You're like, dang.
Yeah, it's like, am I not good or something? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, that'd be such a bummer. That would suck
Like,
so bad.
They must be wanting him to get pulled because they don't think he's as good as someone else.
Yeah. And I feel like if that's the case, then I imagine the coach would be thinking something similar. So maybe it wasn't that big of a deal to pull him, but I don't know why.
So scary.
Yeah, I don't know why him specifically or why they're targeting them. I feel like that's the worst thing you could do. It's like, let's freak them out right before their game when we want them to win. I don't know. Seems ridiculous.
Yeah, I feel like if you're a coach, you just like have your assistant take everything and like not pay attention. So like if there's a death threat to do something, it doesn't affect your decision making.
Yeah. But then it's like, okay, you want to take those things seriously, typically. So the assistant coach like knows that there's been death threats and he's like, trying not to say
like,
anything.
You sure you want to play him? He's like, yeah. He's like, okay.
He's like, okay, we're all dead. Like, that's so scary.
Yeah.
So this was like the atmosphere going into June 22nd, 1994 at the Rose Bowl. So it's Colombia versus the United States now. And Andres started the game like he always did. He was very calm. He was the type of defender that coaches ate up because he wasn't very reckless. He was a smart player. And he was like sometimes the captain even. But in the first half, with the game still scoreless, the American midfielder John Harkes, he sent a low cross into the penalty area. And Andreas was kind of tracking back, ready to defend, doing exactly what he always does, closing down space, tried to cut off the pass, and he stretched out his leg to intercept the ball before it reached anyone else. And he did get a piece of it, just not the way he meant to, because he hit the ball, deflected off his foot, changed direction, and rolled into his own net. So it was a self-scored goal. Now the United States were up 1, Colombia 0. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine how much fear. You're standing in front of thousands and thousands of people. You're in pure shock. You just had death threats like the day before, probably on like your performance, and you go and do a self-scored goal. I'd be like,
yeah,
I'm not seeing the light of day. Yeah, I can't imagine. That'd be so scary. The Americans actually added a second goal in the 56th minute, and then Colombia did get like a late goal. It was a header, but it still wasn't enough because the final score was United States 2, Colombia 1 with a massive, massive upset. They had to beat Switzerland, and the United States had to lose against Romania. And the Colombia did beat Switzerland. They held up their part. They beat them 2-0. but Romania beat the United States. Therefore, Colombia was eliminated, finishing dead
I thought you
last in their
said
group.
U.S. had to lose.
Yeah, and Romanian won. So yeah, the U.S. Oh wait, let's see, had to win, I think, in order for them to move on. I must have I wrote that wrong. One or the other. The United States-Romanian game is the reason that they didn't advance to the next round.
Yeah.
So they finished dead last in their group. And they were supposed to like be runner-ups for like, they were like highly favored to finish like in the finals. And they didn't even make it onto the next round. So obviously this is hugely shocking. And I imagine the team was terrified to go back to Colombia.
Yeah. They're like, can we get a visa?
I know. Oh my gosh. I'd be so scared. Like the conversation, like this, like obviously immediately across the countries, everything was like Colombia headlines, and it was all super hyper focused on Andres Escobar's own goal. That would suck so bad. Of course, the reactions back home were brutal. Like everyone was so mad. Newspapers ran headlines calling it a national humiliation. Talk radio was merciless. It's just like really embarrassing for them. And of course, beyond embarrassing, it was very dangerous because a lot of these guys had some gambling money involved. So betting on soccer and specifically on the national team was deeply tied to Colombia's cartel underworld at the time. And when Colombia lost, a lot of these guys involved in hardcore organized crime lost a lot of money with it. So that being said, Andres was given the option actually to stay in the United States to like let things cool down. Like they all were like, no one leave the country of the United States. We're all screwed. And a lot of his teammates actually like stayed in the United States. They didn't want to go home.
Yeah.
And if I remember reading right, I think Andres even had family in Vegas and he talked about going to go stay with them. But like I mentioned earlier, he decided that he just wanted to go home, face the consequences. He even wrote a newspaper column, which is crazy, and published it in El Tiempo, one of Colombia's biggest papers, called Life Doesn't End Here. And in it, he told the country, like, don't let anger and violence win. Like, the only way forward is pick ourselves back up. Like, posting this optimistic, we can go forward from here. And then he came home 5 days later, and you already know what happened 5 days later. So to understand how literally this mistake in a soccer game got a man killed, we got to talk about a little bit more of Colombia in 1994. As we kind of already mentioned, it was a crazy time. And as I already mentioned, I didn't know anything about the cartels, but this is a case that we have involving the cartels. So 6 months before the World Cup, Pablo Escobar, like I said, not related to Andres, this is when he was actually killed by the Colombian military. So this is like right around that time. So this was ending the reign of like his cartel as most people knew it, but his death was like kind of like almost a downfall of Colombia, which is interesting because I didn't know that he was like sponsoring public community things. But at the time, he was kind of like the head honcho, where everything under him was pretty organized. And even though a lot of bad stuff was going on, at least it ran through a pretty organized chain. Once he was gone, it broke off into dozens of smaller, meaner operations, all competing for what was left. And the Cali cartel rose to fill in a lot of those spaces. So soccer itself wasn't separate from any of this. More than half the players on the Colombian national soccer team actually played for club teams that were financed directly or indirectly by narco money. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, makes sense though.
It does make sense, but how scary that, like, I feel like if they're funding you, you're like on a tight leash. Like you can't be making any mistakes, which as we know, which is so scary. Like what a rough environment to be playing your sport. But Pablo Escobar himself had even bankrolled the same club Andres played for. And so I think Andres was like pretty familiar with how that all ran. But gambling on matches wasn't even like a side hustle for these guys. This was like their main income. And so when the World Cup comes around, this is like a huge event for all these guys involved in illegal stuff. It just like sounds so scary. So when Andres was coming home, this country was like in shambles, ready to go to town. So 2 of the men most closely tied to what happened next were brothers Pedro and Santiago Gayon. I think it's Gayon. Santiago seems to be the like lead brother. So I'm either going to be talking about Santiago. If I talk about both, we're going to go with the brothers because we all know I can't speak Spanish. So the brothers, they weren't like small time dealers or anything like that. They were like hardcore into the drug trafficking world with like connections through Pablo originally. Some reporting connects them to Los Pepes, the anti-Pablo Escobar vigilante alliance that had formed a year earlier. Basically, all this group that united because they wanted Pablo gone. So they seem to like want to be Pablo, and that connection is looser and less well documented than their core reputation as traffickers and gamblers, though. So that was kind of like their thing, gambling and trafficking. By the summer of 1994, gambling was one of their income streams, like I mentioned. So like when the World Cup comes around, they were anticipating to make huge money here. On the night of July 1st into July 2nd, Andres went to the bar with his friends, as we know, then the liquor store, and then El Indio, I believe, the nightclub. And the brothers were there that night too. Literally worst case scenario. And Andres is so brave because he sees the brothers and they're like fighting. They're like super mad. Everyone's throwing words around, probably some fist. And it's not scaring Andres away. I would have seen these guys and been like, I'm out of town. I gotta leave right now.
Yeah.
So I guess that there was definitely argumentative conversations going on and talking about this goal. But not enough to scare him because then his friends left and he was by himself and he seemed like he was fine. But that's when they approached again. There's 3 men, not just the 2 brothers. And this time, the brother's driver, he was actually a bodyguard for the cartel as well. His name was Humberto Castro Munoz. And he pulled a .38 caliber handgun. And he is the one who shot Andres multiple times between 3 to 12.
Jeez.
And this is what I'm like, that is so sad. The saying goal over again, that is like so creepy. I'm like, what a horrible reason to murder somebody. Some people say that the men said thanks for the own goal as they fired, but either way, obviously, the message is the same. We know why Andres was murdered. The group actually fled the scene in a stolen Toyota pickup truck, and then that's when Andres was rushed to the hospital and passed away about 45 minutes later. But the case happened all so quickly because Humberto Castro Munoz was arrested that same night and actually confessed to killing the killing the very next day. But he told investigators that he worked as a driver for the brothers and that they lost a ton of money. And because of this, he was convicted of Andres' murder in June 1995, and he was sentenced to 43 years in prison.
Just him?
Of course, just him. There's a couple things about that.
Yeah, the brothers are probably chilling.
Yeah. I cannot believe how untouchable these like drug guys are in countries like this.
Yeah.
Why is just because they have power and intimidation, or what's going on? Money
and intimidation, probably. They can pay off judges and pay off cops, and also if that doesn't work, they could just kill them. Put someone else in power.
Remember the case we did a while ago about the town bully?
Yeah.
And that's like the same thing where he would just threaten everybody. He got away with so much just because he would literally just threaten to kill everybody, which is
craziness.
So creepy that works. I'm like, what is going on? So this guy, yeah, like I said, sentenced 43 years. That sentence, of course, didn't hold because he was affiliated with these guys. So under a change to Colombia's correctional code in 2001, it was reduced to 26 years. But then you have on top of that additional credit for good behavior and work and study while incarcerated. And so he was released soon after all this happened, having served just a small fraction of his original sentence.
Dang.
As far as the brothers go, like obviously they were right there. They were investigated, but only for obstruction of justice, which I don't know what claims they have on that, but not for the murder itself. And so I will say they did spend about 15 months in prison, which is more than I was expecting.
Yeah.
for these type of guys. However, they are like, there's long-standing allegations, including Pamela, Andrea's fiance, claiming that the brothers had bribed the prosecutor's office, which we just mentioned, probably highly likely,
Yeah.
in order to keep the case focused on the driver, Munoz. If they keep the case focused on him as the shooter, kind of lets them disappear into the background, getting
And then
untouched a
after
little
it's
bit.
done, they'll just go get him out of jail somehow with bribes and stuff.
All that is so crazy that it works.
Yeah.
So prosecutors, they claim though that they simply just didn't have evidence to charge these brothers with anything. Either way, nobody was ever convicted outside of the shooter, even though it seems as though many people say that the brothers are the ones who ordered the hit. And Munoz only served about 11 years of his 43-year sentence. So that's
Dang.
nothing. And
Yeah,
like,
still more than I
Andre-
thought when you said that.
yeah, 11 years is very little for a murder,
Mhm.
but especially serving like less than a quarter, basically, almost, of your sentence. But yeah, at least it wasn't like 2 months, you know, which
Yeah,
is the
true.
direction I saw it going in when I was first reading about this case. So this happens. The conviction, people serve their time. 32 years pass. That's when the story seemed to end. Actually, oddly enough, February of this year, 2026, like 5 months ago, Santiago, one of the brothers, was shot dead in a restaurant in a town just outside of Mexico City.
Whoa.
Which is like so recent. I'm like, whoa, that guy was
That's
still
random.
around?
Yeah.
I know, this is so recent. Literally shot dead recently. And oddly enough, Colombia's president, Gustavo Petro, he publicly stated afterward that Santiago had been responsible for Andres Escobar's murder more than 3 decades after the fact. And great that he made a statement, but how frustrating. Like, why would you even say that if you weren't going to do anything about it? This whole time, you're like, yeah, the brothers were involved. They ordered the hit. You didn't do anything about it. And then he gets shot dead. And you're like, oh, by the way, yeah, this guy is the guy who killed our superstar. I don't know. I thought that was kind of a little cowardly, in my opinion. But it is interesting how just 5 months ago, he made a statement saying, yep, the guy who killed Andres Escobar is now officially dead.
Dang.
Wild. Yeah. So the
Wonder
man
who
wildly
killed him.
I know, that's true. That'd be interesting.
Just looking
I
it
mean,
up.
did you find it?
Yeah, but I didn't find anything else.
This man, obviously Santiago, wildly believed but never convicted, ended up gunned down himself in a country that wasn't even his, more than 30 years after allegedly ordering a death sentence to an innocent star athlete, which is
probably not the only one he ordered.
Oh, I'd be very shocked if that's the case. Also, I'm surprised that he's been around for 30 extra years. I feel like in this type of industry, you're not around very long.
Yeah.
Which
True.
is bizarre. So as far as Andres Escobar, he is remembered for helping elevate Colombia's image on the world stage and being a source of immense national pride. Like, people really respected him. He was admired both at home and abroad for his humility, sportsmanship, and integrity, which is, of course, why he earned the nickname the Gentleman of Football, which is so cool.
I saw a bunch of posters, like when I was looking it up, like Andres, we didn't forget you, or something like that.
Yeah, that's like into this year's World Cup, or old?
No, just like when I was looking up, like there was just, I don't know when the posters were made, but they seemed old.
That's actually what I was about to say, though, is that Escobar's funeral was attended by more than 120,000 people, and that every year, I guess, people still honor Escobar by bringing his photos to soccer matches. So I'd be curious if they are still around. Yeah, I wanted to see if Colombia had any of their fans holding up Andres posters.
I think they just lost.
Yeah, that's true. I think so.
And shootout penalty kicks yesterday.
Penalty kicks. Yeah, that was actually kind of surprising. Against Switzerland, right? Yeah, well, so I'm like, that's kind of neat that people are still honoring him. I'm sure that that's a great way to show respect. In July of 2002, the city even actually unveiled a statue in honor of his memory. So there is a statue in Medellin. How do you say that again?
Medellin.
Medellin. there's now a statue of him like having a soccer ball on his butt in his honor to remember his great athlete. Yeah. And that is the horrible case of Andres Escobar and the stupid reason for his premature.
Yeah.
So I thought it was kind of interesting.
I'm sure that's happened a lot in history.
There has been quite a few. And I was going to link in quite a few different cases of kind of similar situations. But I want to talk a little bit more about the cartels since we haven't really talked about them. But it's just like so scary to think that there's people out there just like running countries in that way. Is this still going on as aggressively these days? I don't know.
Probably. I mean, it's probably different now. Just like we have like politicians getting paid off by lobbyists to make certain rules and stuff that don't benefit Americans but benefit certain corporations in other countries. That happens a lot.
That's so scary. Yeah, so I don't imagine the Colombian team is going to be in danger when they go home this World Cup, but how scary to know that there's situations where
it's happened
multiple times. So that is our case. That's why I thought it was timely. That's why I want to talk about it. And do you have a keyword for me?
Yes.
Okay.
Own goal.
That is so sad.
There's a lot of own goals this World Cup too.
There's been a lot. Yeah. I feel like we talked about like in the group stage, especially. I felt like
a ton. Like the U.S. had like 2 or 3, like so many that we scored on.
True. That is so many.
Yeah.
But it's been a fun World Cup, even though the United States are out.
And
Still
Brazil.
Fun. And Brazil. So
True.
sad.
Yeah.
I was gonna say also something that is slipping my mind now. Own goal. What was it? Oh, I was just gonna say there's like obviously a video of this 1994 own goal on YouTube. Super low quality, super old, but it will be playing throughout the podcast when we talk about it. And it's just so sad. You can just see the devastation on everyone's face. I bet.
Yeah.
Fear.
Did you see like the Argentina comeback was crazy, and there's all this controversy about it, like how FIFA's corrupt and they wanted to keep Argentina in, and like Egypt is like all mad, and Egypt's coach is like making this weird symbol.
Egypt's like we're banning Messi from entering our country,
like Xing his arms for some reason, and
I
guess a lot of weird stuff. But I just think Messi was balling out.
Beast.
The goal that was taken back was kind of sketchy, but I mean they still scored 3 goals anyways.
So in the end, it wouldn't have mattered. But
would have they would probably have gone to overtime or something. But Messi was balling out. It was sick.
That was crazy.
I think Egypt's just being poor losers.
I guess Egypt and Argentina have like some beef. I was like looking it up, and like before even they were playing Argentina, I guess the coach was making some comments about how like Messi doesn't deserve all this respect and all this stuff.
Yeah,
and
geez. That coach is such a baby. It sounds like.
Sounds like he's very emotional.
That guy and the Canadians coach, Canada, he's such a baby too. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I love that it's Canada that's a baby. They are babies.
Like the worst version of America. That's why I am surprised. I'm going to be surprised if like any allegations actually keep coming out that are like verifiable. Because I think people are always going to throw shade at Argentina are like the best teams. That's going to happen every time just because people are mad and jealous. So it's going to be interesting. But that was a crazy game. I was shocked.
It was.
I was like, no way we have Messi out, Ronaldo, Neymar. I was like, they're losing all of them in the knockouts. But then Messi made come back.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Ready for an episode of True Crime News?
True Crime News. I'm ready.
Welcome back to True Crime News. This week, a son accused of killing his own mother. A fugitive finally brought back to face justice after nearly a decade. A family found dead inside their home. A New Year's celebration that turned deadly. And a 4th of July shooting that left children caught in the crossfire.
Sad.
I know. I was really sad reading it.
You didn't seem sad.
I know, because I was like catching up to it as I was going.
You're processing after the fact.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me.
All right. So back to the true crime news. All right. Retired corrections officer killed. Police in Queens, New York, arrested Armel Crawford, 26, after 61-year-old Joanne Crawford, a retired corrections officer, was found stabbed to death inside her home on July 7th. Excuse me. Investigators say Joanne suffered multiple stab wounds and died at the scene. According to family members, Armel is Joanne's son, and the two had experienced years of family conflict. One relative told reporters that an argument over caring for Joanne's elderly mother may have led to the deadly confrontation. Armel has been charged with murder, and the investigation is ongoing. Jeez, over that. That's crazy.
So dumb. That's why I'm thinking, like, with the own goal, I'm like, people kill for less.
Yeah,
That's
people
crazy.
are stupid and gross.
Mhm.
Fugitive returned after 9 years. Nearly 9 years after a California woman was found dead, the prime suspect has finally been returned to the United States. Jose Guadalupe Lopez Nunez appeared in a Sacramento courtroom this week after authorities extradited him from Mexico. Prosecutors allege Nunez murdered Emilia Quintero Ramos in 2017 before attempting to hide her body in the Sacramento River. Investigators say an international search and public tip ultimately led to his capture. Family members say they've waited almost a decade for this day.
Wow.
Sad, but glad we got him.
Yeah.
Mother and 2 daughters found dead. That's sad. Police in Belfordshire, England, are searching internationally for Nadanan Mark Chisuma after his wife, Nathabo Zandili Tushima, and their daughters Natalie and Nala, 15 and 5, were found dead inside their home. Authorities believe Tushima left the country shortly after the killings and may have traveled to Zimbabwe. Investigators say the family has reportedly been separated before the murders. The investigation remains active as police work with international agencies. Dang, that's crazy.
I hate family annihilator guys.
Yeah. And then it has to go through international agencies.
That'd be so difficult.
Yeah. New Year's celebration ends in homicide arrest. What began as a New Year's celebration ended in tragedy. On January 2nd, Moises Jaimes, was standing outside his home in Laredo, Texas, when he was struck in the head by a stray bullet fired during New Year's celebrations. This week, police announced the arrest of Omar Tulio Perez Jr., 19, and 16-year-old juvenile. Detectives say forensic evidence, surveillance footage, and recovered firearms link the suspect to the fatal shot. The victim's family says they finally feel justice is beginning.
Okay,
That's
I
crazy.
wasn't expecting that. I thought kids were the ones involved, not the actual perpetrator.
Yeah.
So New Year's
the next
celebration, they're
one.
shooting off actual guns.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen that in movies and stuff, and
That's
Mexican
freaky.
cultures, different cultures shoot them off and probably shot up.
I thought it was fake poppers in movies. I didn't know people were shooting bullets.
I don't know.
Oh, that's creepy.
4th of July shooting injures children.
This is the one.
Yeah. A family gathering in Coney Island, New York, turned into chaos on the night of 4th of July. Police say a masked gunman opened fire into a crowd during a neighborhood barbecue. 8 people were shot, including 4 children. A 21-year-old woman remains in critical condition, while the other victims are expected to survive. Investigators believe the shooting may be connected to an earlier gang-related homicide, but no arrests have been announced. Scary.
How traumatizing. You're 5 years old and you get shot? That's crazy. Thank heavens it seems like everyone's gonna live. Hopefully the adult does too. But
Yeah.
that is so creepy. That'd take a lot of work to get over something like that. That's so
Yeah.
scary.
And those are the 5 true crime stories making the headlines this week. As always, we continue following these investigations and bring you any major developments as they happen.
I think you should start cutting that part out because we do not update anyone with anything.
There's been no updates.
That's fair. On any of our previous true crime news. That is bizarre. But thank you for sharing true crime news. And
of course,
thanks for being here, everybody, for this week's episode. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Siblings in Crime.
Adios.